back to Superior Sunrise. Now with me is Greg Comstock. Greg, you're no stranger to the Superior Sunrise crew and to this morning's show. It's great to have you on again this morning. Let's talk a little bit about your background in the livestock and agriculture industries.
Well, thanks for having me, Kirby. And it's been a few years, but probably 3 or 4 years. But no, I've been through this Superior Sunrise thing a few times, and certainly here at the Exchange Building in Fort Worth, going back some 15 years or so. But after leaving the Red Angus Association 3 years ago, I formed an LLC called Gro-Op LLC, and we work with a handful of ranchers and seed stock producers around the country and become very involved in their operations. And we put together long-range growth plans. Many of these operations, you would be familiar with 5L Red Angus, for example. They've got 4 kids coming back to the ranch. So how are we going to grow their business? How are we going to expand their market share so that we can make the business big enough to allow 4 more families to eat well? So with that, one of the things that all of these seed stock producers to sustain their business is we have to find ways that they can sustain their customers' business. So a lot of what I do is work with them to develop customer service solutions. You'd be very familiar with Frank Weedle, of course, and Weedle Red Angus. You'll see Frank at the Winnemucca sale every year buying calves that your Superior customers and his bull customers are selling there. And you sold quite a few head of commercial bred heifers through the 5L auction every fall. So,
what was it that made you see a need for this with your customers?
Well, you know, having worked with these folks for a decade or more, and before I went to the Red Angus Association, I had worked with them as a colleague or a contemporary on the Red Angus Strategic Planning Committee. And so in that, I had seen kind of what their own challenges were in growing their own family businesses. These are all very capable people, but as most of the seed stock producers, you know, they're very busy. And so trying to get all the bases covered, I saw what they struggled with through my career at Red Angus and working with them pretty intimately there. And so once I left Red Angus, they started calling up and saying, hey, why don't we work together?
Well, taking a deeper look into their program, you know how important feed intake is. A couple of them participate in the Grow Safe program. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, again, when we talk about customer service solutions, it's not just trying to help them market their calves, it's trying to provide them the genetics that are going to add value, that are going to make the cattle feeders and cattle buyers want to own those cattle. And of course, when we look at the economics of cattle feeding, feed intake and specifically feed conversion is a really big profit driver. For years, we have focused on how fast cattle gained. More recently, with the ability to measure individual animal feed intake, we've been a little bit focused on which animals ate the least. But in reality, I think what we really want to focus on is which animals gain the most profitably. And with this technology, herds like 5L or Weedle Red Angus are going to be able to supply bulls to their commercial customers that gain most efficiently.
What has the outcome been since seeing this with the customers that have used these programs?
Well, I think one, anybody who buys feeder cattle will tell you that intake is a big profit driver, and specifically conversion is a big profit driver. And so I think as we can do a better job of tying the genetics that our bull customers are buying, and not just for feed intake or conversion, but also for carcass quality, and we can tie that to the calves that they are selling and make that genetic link from the seed stock producer through the cow-calf operator and to the buyers that are going to be bidding on the sale later this morning.
Well, I know you have some customers that have production sales coming up. I want to thank you for coming on the show with us this morning. If anybody has any questions for you, wants to get more information about what it is that you do, how can they get a hold of you?
Oh, they can just call at 804-647-0127.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for coming on the show this morning.
Thank you so much.
When we come back, a sit-down interview with Jack Ward from the American Hereford Association. Don't go anywhere.